We're in Tarragona with Professor Defeng Li.
Yes.
From where?
From the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's your professional occupation there?
I'm a reader in Translation Studies. I'm also the director for the Center of Translation Studies at the school. And we run a doctoral program in Translation Studies as well as an MA in the theory and practice of translation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm both the director and also the tutor for the PhD students plus the convener of the MA in translation program.
Okay. You're not originally from London?
No, I'm not. Before that, I was actually in Hong Kong. I taught at the Chinese University of Hong Kong for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a department of translation, and it's actually one of the oldest one in that region. So, yeah.
Are you originally from Hong Kong?
No, I'm originally from the Chinese mainland, Nanjing. Nanjing is like a city close, it's somewhere in the middle of China, but close to the eastern coast, sort of middle east of China.
So you went from People's Republic to Hong Kong to study, or
No, I actually did my BA and MA in Nanjing Normal University. That's also where I grew up, and I then worked in my alma mater, Nanjing Normal University, for 3 or 4 years, teaching English and translation. But then I thought I had a need to really pursue further advanced studies, so I went to Canada.
Okay. And so, how old were you then when you went there?
I was at that time 26. I think I finished my MA at 26, and then I think just before I turned 30, I went to university.
That's quite late. So were you working as well as studying in this period?
No, I think I did my BA from 83 to 87, and then from 87 to 90.
Okay.
And then I worked there for about 3 years. In 1994, I went to University of Alberta, where I actually studied in the Faculty of Education, and my specialization was second language education. So
you left translation, or you weren't into translation at that stage?
Well, I did my MA in translation.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I did my doctorate in second language education. It just so happened that in the second year of my PhD program, I had my son. And then I had family to raise, to feed. So I started to look for jobs, and just somehow I got this offer from the Chinese University of Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I thought it was very, because I had a background in translation, and also this background in education. Actually, it worked quite well. I've never really regretted studying in the Faculty of Education. I think actually it's one of the best things that happened to me.
Why is that?
Because I think, especially like I think of that time, it's between like 1994 to 1997. I think as far as in terms of the discipline, I personally don't believe that translation studies is that well developed at that time. If we just looked at the literature by that time, we don't really have that much around. While education is a really very well developed discipline.
In terms of research methodology?
In terms of research methodology, in terms of its interdisciplinarity. Like, for example, I took a course of curriculum and curricular inquiry. There, you read about education, of course, but you also read about philosophy, phenomenology, hermeneutics, psychoanalysis, basically anything sociology, anthropology. So, like, by taking that course, you are getting into many other related areas as well. And of course, the other thing is what you just mentioned, research methodology. I think that's the best thing I get trained at the universities.
So we know you as the author of research reports, really on training and where graduates go and what people think.
Right.
You're using methodologies that have come from your doctorate then.
That's right. That's right. That's actually how I started my career as a teacher of translation, translation steps. I thought that was a good sort of a point for me to sort of put the two areas together. So, because I've got the methodology and I'm interested in teaching. So, as a young teacher, so at that time, I think it's probably the best way for me to get started.
Had you worked as a translator?
Yes, as a freelance translator, never a full-time translator. Because I remember back in Nanjing doing my MA in translation, I started doing freelance translation, and then also in Canada. So while I'm doing my doctorate, I also work as a freelance translator. But also throughout all these many years of teaching translation, because personally I believe as a teacher of translation, you have to have the skill, and also it's also a good way for you to really sort of keep abreast with the development in the market. And I think that's very important. So we just did this oral for the PhD student this morning. I mean, it's very when there's a good interaction between the training programs and the market, I think we are likely to get the best result.
Can you tell us something about the research that you did and the things you discovered about training? It's basically in Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah. The first sort of report I did was in the context of translator teaching in Hong Kong. I think that the first sort of discovery I made there was there was only like 20% of our translation graduates actually become translators. And I think because that has a very big implication for the training programs. How do you design this curriculum? How do you try to meet the needs of the students?
I think the percentage is pretty similar in Spain.
Right.
20-30%.
Yeah. And then the other thing is about, for example, in terms of the great debate in translation, is whether translation theory is useful to the students. I think it's so interesting. I surveyed the current students at the university at that time. I think the majority of the students didn't believe theory was useful. They didn't like the course that much. But surprisingly, when I interviewed the professional translators, most of them believed theory was important, and they found they were very happy that they did learn theory at the university. I said, why is that? Why do you think theory is so useful? Because generally we believe, professional translators would think proper practice is more important than theory, or they like theory. But they say what? Because here we quite often work as in-house translators. We have to deal with our supervisors, and our supervisors, they actually don't know anything about translation, but they like to tell you how to do translation. And then, for me as a subordinate, they use the word, and then the best way to tell them is to say, I have this theory which can explain my practice. And I think with theory as my backing, I can really do what I believe is right. So I think that's very interesting.
What kind of research do you think we need these days?
Well, personally, I think I think I've probably two areas I believe that's very important for translation studies. One is the research methodology in translation studies, because I think I probably have two reasons. One is I think now we generally believe that translation studies as a discipline is quite well established, or many believe it's already a quite independent discipline. And I think that for a discipline to really grow, we do need research methodology to really find a way to make our work more, rigorous.
Do you think we have or need methods that are different from any other social science?
really, but I think there is, again, like how we make these general research methods of social science work for translation studies. I think there is a thing called probably adaptation, how to adapt these methods to work for us best. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things that we need to do as a discipline we need it, and also for our students. And with the rise of translation studies, we have an increase of PhD students rate, mm-hmm. and they all need methodology. And actually last year I started a course called Research Methods in Translation Studies at the SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies. And actually, I was very happy because by the end of the year, I got, in terms of teaching evaluation and also the comments, the students, for most of these parameters, they gave 5 out of 5. Mm-hmm. I was very impressed, and also in terms of written comments, quite a few said this is the best course I've
So it's addressing a real need.
Yes, it's a real need, and I think they said, especially I think half of our students actually went on to PhD mm-hmm. programs. They believe that's a good way for them to get started because they were able to write.
That's about how we do research.
Yeah.
What should we be doing research on? Do you see any areas, any research questions that should be dealt with? Or is it
I would think, because I think now it's really sort of to my background, originally from China, and also I'm now in the School of Oriental and African Studies. I believe as an area that needs more attention, also an area of growth in translation studies is research into the Asian translation traditions, or not less Asian, probably non-European translation traditions, because we know very little in translation, even translation training in many of those countries. I think that's something we can probably do more work. And actually now I just started working with Springer, developing a new series in translation studies. I think we wanted to, for me, I think I have sort of two focus there. One is the focus on non-European mm-hmm. Translation or translation theory. Really want to highlight, for example, the Asian translation traditions, mm-hmm. and the other one is really the data-based empirical study in translation. So, focus-based translation studies, or the psycholinguistic or neurolinguistic approach to translation studies. And personally, because I think I'm very interested in those areas. I think those, for me, would be really the exciting area to work in this.
Okay, thank you. Defeng Li, thank you very much before the restaurant overwhelms us with the noise.